Hello and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Ed with Professor Chris. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. Students, I'm out there doing the best, getting you all the information that I can get. Again, the goal is for you to experience college, not survive college. Today, we're talking about career fairs. That's all you all think about. That's probably the reason why you all went to college in the first place, right? I do have here today with me a very good friend, our career fairs expert. Hopefully, it will provide some good information for you to move on. So, welcome in.
Thank you.
Honestly, it's a pleasure to see you again. We should be seeing more of each other, but I'll take any time that we get.
I
so
appreciate it.
How are you doing? How are you doing?
Everything's good. It's been a very interesting 2 years, I think, for everybody, with the transition of working remotely and then the uncertainty, coming back to campus at a different capacity where we're here, but we're not necessarily engaged face to face. And now everything is opened up again, and having to physically and mentally re-engage in face-to-face world. And it's interesting because, you know, this is about career fairs, and I recall that right before we went on quarantine, we had a career fair in this room, and I remember telling my faculty, okay, I'll see you in a couple weeks. And here we are about 2 years later.
No, that's great. So usually when I start the show, I always kind of want to get a little bit about, you know, the people that I'm interviewing, like your background. And the one kind of a twist to that question that I always ask is, when you went to college, is this where you envision yourself?
Sure. So I'll start with my background. Sure. So I've been with Wake Tech for a little over 5 years, and my title is Manager of Employer Connections. So what I do essentially is I connect students and alumni with employers. It could be for full-time, part-time, internship, experiential learning, just helping students understand what they would like to do for a career. My background is it's an interesting mix of I've spent years as an IT recruiter. I did work in career services earlier in my career. Prior to this role, I was a high school guidance counselor in New York. So this was a bit of a career change in a sense, but also coming back to a career that I had done earlier in my career. Nice. Now, if I think about myself in college, well, one of the first things I really need to mention is I was not a strong student in college. I was not focused. I really did not have education and career as my priority, and I can't recall one career fair that I attended in college because I wasn't mature enough to know what was good for me 10, 15 years down the road, or even 2 years down the road. But no, I never expected myself to be here when I was in college. And I say, even if you were to speak to me 8 years ago, would I've predicted I'll be working in career services in higher ed, I would have said no. And I think for me, that's one of the beautiful things about my career, is because I'm curious. And if there's something that I was doing that I felt like I accomplished everything that I wanted to do, or I was curious to try something else, well, I pivoted. And then I took my career in that direction. So this really has been probably about the fourth career for me. And I share that with students because I recall if there's one thing that really stressed me out when I was in college is I felt like I had to know, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And when I graduated, I go to family get-togethers, so what are you going to do? I didn't have an answer. If I knew then that it's okay to not have it all mapped out, and if I had known then that would have tried several different careers, it may have taken some of that pressure off my shoulders. But here I am, and I'm happy.
No, that's great, because you need to go back and watch some of the episodes that we've done, but it's almost like a common theme, a common thread for everyone that I've interviewed, including myself. And I think it's good for students to understand that it is not magic when you come to college to figure out exactly what it is that you want to do, because it is going to change, right? Let's get right into career fairs. What is a career fair?
Yeah, so a career fair, I think people typically think that a career fair is a place where employers and students come together for hiring purposes, which that is what a career fair is in its purest form. But I think it would behoove students to look at it beyond that, because a career fair is also an opportunity to network. It's an opportunity to build connections. It's an opportunity for career exploration, to speak to people in the field, to find out more about their industry, their company, a day in the life of certain roles. So you can learn, is this something that I want to continue pursuing? Or do I want to perhaps change my major or my career track? So we can be narrow-minded and look at it as just a hiring event, but I think to get the most out of it, it's useful for students and alumni to look at this as really just a broad event that could be for hiring, full-time, part-time, or internship, or it could be to make connections, find a mentor, or it could be to discover if they are truly on the right path for them career-wise, get some insight in regards to a particular company or an industry, and they may walk away thinking, that was a great experience. I learned so much, and I may want to try this field. But if nothing else, it's also practice. The professional world is really about getting in front of people. We did virtual for a while, but there is no substitute for face-to-face. And when you go to a career fair, multiple times, it could be 50, 60 times within a day, you're practicing your communication, verbal, nonverbal, you're practicing your elevator pitch, you're practicing asking questions, you're practicing advocating for yourself, you're building that confidence. And I often tell students, even if in your first semester, if you don't know exactly what you want to do, go to a career fair, because you're going to learn things, you're going to make connections, but you're going to learn more how to interact in the professional realm. And while it might be intimidating at first, every interaction you have, you're going to build up your power meter, and you're going to realize you're getting asked similar questions. And you're learning more about the process and what to expect. And I think it's very rare to find a situation where a student who walks in, maybe a bit nervous, if they put themselves out there, they leave the event feeling empowered.
Okay. So you actually answered one of my questions.
I'm ahead of the game here.
You are, absolutely. Which is going to be, when should a student go to a career fair? Because usually students think, oh, I'm getting ready to graduate, now I have to look for work. That's when I need to go to a career fair. But you did mention that is also a way for students, if you don't know what to do, to actually go to your very first semester. So touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm happy to expand on it. So really, if I were to jump back into past me, who I never attended a career fair in college, and I think back, what was I doing? The best time to attend a career fair is any time. It could be before you even get to college. It could be in your first semester. It could be in your first week of school. Because, so if you think about it like this, it's not that often that opportunity comes to your doorstep, but a career fair at a college really is that. You have opportunity coming right to your doorstep, where employers are coming here for Wake Tech students and alumni. And they understand that there are first-year students, second-year students, first semester students. So they're not here expecting everybody to have all the answers. They're not expecting people here to have all the experience. So a student can benefit from attending a career fair anytime, but I would recommend it far sooner than their graduation date, because they will be able to make those connections. They will be able to be exposed to opportunities. They're going to get that practice that, let's say if they're very far away from truly knowing what they want to do, or if they're even far away from being able to take on a job, they're still building their network, they're still practicing their soft skills, as they call them, and you really never know. Employers, when they meet with people, they're looking for opportunity. They're hoping that every student that walks up, they're hoping that they're going to be the one. They're hoping that they're going to have something that they can, find a mutually beneficial arrangement. So there have been times where students have walked into events not expecting something, but they have a conversation with an employer who didn't even necessarily have something that was the appropriate fit, but they realize there's opportunity here. This is somebody that has potential, and let's create something that'll work for them, that we can help get them connected with our company, and maybe even down the road when they're ready to take on more, well, we have more for them. So it's kind of like the lotto. You never know. You won't win if you don't play.
You're not advocating that we all go play the lotto, are you?
Well, I've never won the lotto, but you never know what can happen. But if you don't attend, then nothing is going to happen, and you're not even going to be practicing or learning. Right. So,
no, that's great. So you're really ahead of the game here, by the way, with the way you're expanding on.
There's
all the
certainly
questions.
more than I can expand.
That's great. Let's talk about preparing for a career fair. Again, I know, so for the seniors, when they're going to a career fair, they're like, okay, I gotta get my resume ready, I gotta get my dress ready. What is a typical preparation, irrespective of where you are? Like you said, even a student first semester, they're thinking about going to a career fair, and I think one of the hesitations is, I don't know what to do. Do I even need to take a resume? There's nothing on my resume. What suggestions do you have in terms of preparation on all the different levels?
Sure. So this is a perfect opportunity to begin with throwing a plug to my department, which is the Career Services Department. Yeah. It's a great resource to have somebody, be it face-to-face or virtually, help students and alumni prepare for their individual needs. So any student or alumni can go to careers.waketech.edu, meet with a career specialist, where they can sit down like this and they can say, I've never been to a career fair. I have no idea what to expect. I'd love to get some help. And then the career specialists will help them based on what their individual needs are. So if there's a student that doesn't have a resume, has never gotten dressed up for a professional event, they're going to work with them based on where they are. Or if there's a student that's been to 10 career fairs, and they just need somebody to just take a look over their resume, they're going to help with them there. But I would say getting the help, if you need it, is always beneficial. They don't have to go it alone. Okay. But one of the first places to really start is you got to look inwards and just think about, so what do I want to get out of this? Am I going there for a job opportunity? Am I going there to build my network? Am I going there just to walk around and see what it's like and just practice my soft skills? And they can never start too early for that. But if there were some basic rules that apply, having a resume is important. And a resume doesn't always have to have experience. High school is experience, volunteer is experience, some projects, depending on what your major is experience. Getting dressed professionally, it really does, it makes an impact. And I know not everybody has the financial means for a particular, for a suit or things along those lines. Looking into resources like Dress for Success might be something that's helpful. But if nothing else, just find the most dressed up outfit that you can and wear that, because it also puts you in a different mindset. You're there for business, you're there for work. Right. And just practice your elevator pitch, which is, what are you going to say to people? Right. And that really could be, I'm here, I'm a first semester IT student. I'm still learning about my major. I'm still learning about careers. And I'm really here as an exploratory to find out what's out there. And then also from there, just see what I have to offer. Right. So just really telling it like it is, because many of these employers, they've been in student shoes. They know what it's like to not have all the answers. They know what it's like to be in an exploratory phase. So I would say don't be afraid of just, you got to be yourself. Right. And I'd say that the final thing is to realize it's a conversation. Yeah. It's not an interrogation. And I think a lot of students and alumni forget that. So yes, you are selling yourself to them, but they are selling themselves to you. So I think that kind of evens the playing field and who holds the power. Right. And you got to recognize, okay, so they need to also make sure that they're ticking all my boxes. And I think that changes just the landscape of the playing field.
You actually hit on a point that I always, tell my students when they're getting ready for an interview. And I always say, you got to be confident, right? Not overconfident. Mm-hmm. You have to be confident because that puts you at ease. And the reason I say that is because students always feel like an interview is the end of the world. So much so to the point that they would say things to just make them look good when it's not necessarily even true, right? They just put themselves on that cross there to be crucified.
That will come back to haunt them.
Right. So I said, just go in there, be confident. Also remembering that the company needs you just as much as you need them, right? So you hit right on the point. So let's kind of debug some of the career first myths that we hear out there. One is, these companies are out here just to show face. They're not really looking for anyone.
Yeah, so that's not typically the case. I'm not going to say that it's not ever the case.
Sure.
But even if a company was there to show face, I'll touch on this first. Even if they were there just to show face, that still doesn't prevent it from being a networking opportunity, because they may be there for needs that they're going to have 2 months down the road, 4 months down the road, 6 months down the road. And they're building their brand, they're getting their name out there, but they're also meeting people that they can draw upon when they're ready to pull the trigger on their position. But outside of that, for companies to attend an interview, it's time, it's money, it's resources, and a lot of organizations are not really too apt to send their resources to an event and spend the money that it might take to get there without a need that they're trying to fill. So that's not typically the case, but even if a company were just here to put their name out there, I would encourage students and alumni to not look at that as a bad thing. Because you can still network with this person and it may lead to places maybe down the road.
Perfect. You debunked that myth one. Second myth is, when I go to career fair, or I hear students say, I always go to career fair, I don't get what I want. And I think you touched on a very, very important point, which is you're not going there. Maybe you should expand your agendas a little bit, right? Not specifically to, I need to get work, and if I don't get work, then that's the end. I never thought about the opportunity to actually, talk to the people, to kind of see what the language is, to see kind of what they require. For me, that is something that I'm still getting out of a career fair. But I think for a student, is job or no job, right? If I don't get it, then the 1 hour I spend at the career fair is wasted. So I'm very happy we're touching on the other advantages of going there without just. But let's assume that a company talks to a student that went to career fair. They usually will say, well, Professor Chris, I interviewed with this company, I haven't heard back from them. Should I follow up? When should I follow up? Can you help with that? Yeah, absolutely.
So I think one thing to point out is that attending a career fair, it's part of the hiring process. So let's say if a student was there with that mindset of, I want to get a job. A couple things you have to realize is that this is the first step out of potentially numerous steps with numerous organizations to get that job, and to think of it more as a marathon than a sprint, because the hiring process for any organization, it could be 2 months, 3 months, even 4 months. I myself have had an opportunity where the first time I spoke to somebody on the phone with an organization, and then I finally got an offer 5 months later. So they have to realize that it's the first step, but then from there comes more work. You have to follow up with the people that you didn't meet with. You have to nurture those connections. You have to grow them. And sometimes you meet somebody at the career fair that is not the ideal person for you to be doing business with. And then you have to kind of work that contact to be able to reach the right person. But it's always a good idea to follow up with somebody after career fair, and I would say soon afterwards, whether it's the same day or the next day, definitely within 2 days later. Every student should get a business card of somebody that they interact with. And part of that is, if nothing else, just the pleasantries. Send them a thank you for their time. Remind them who you are. Remind them of your skill set. If you are excited, remind them that you're excited. But I also recommend, even if you're not interested, it's still a good idea to send a thank you note, because being polite in this game will get you far. And you don't know who that person knows. You don't know when you might be able to call upon them as a network, even if they had nothing to do with what your needs are. So look beyond just what's in it for me, what can I get out of it? Think about it also as, well, how can I treat people well? When you treat people well, good things come to you.
Great. So are there career fairs for almost every discipline? Because we always hear, oh, it's only just the technical programs that have career fairs. True or false?
That's false. We have career fairs for, I think it's tough to say every discipline because Wake Tech is always growing and expanding. And there are also certain departments that also host their own smaller hiring events. But we have the business and IT, we have applied engineering, we have the engineering college transfer, we've had health sciences career fairs, we've had criminal justice career fairs, early child education career fairs, automotive, diesel and heavy equipment, skilled trades. So I'd say among a lot of our largest programs, there are career fairs that I've been involved in. But cosmetology, for example, they do their own hiring events. And a large career fair isn't necessarily the appropriate fit for every program. There are certain programs where we have employers come in and speak to the students in their class, or we have an employer do an information session where we rent out this space here and put an employer here and students come. So a lot of it depends on the program's needs, the size of the student population, and the employer's needs. But also, if there's not a career fair and the student wants to get out there, there are opportunities outside of Wake Tech to attend events. NC State holds career fairs that are open to the public. NC Works holds career fairs that are open to the public. And we've got our online job board, which is College Central Network, which anytime, if you want to look for a job at 4 o'clock in the morning, you can't sleep, you can turn the TV on, or you can go to College Central Network and look for some jobs.
That's great. And this has been great. I think, and again, usually with my closing, I will ask the students, if you have any questions, let me know, I'll bring them to you. But before we close though, what is one advice or motivation you have for students to encourage them about career fairs? For me personally, again, you touch on 3 points that I want to use for my closing, which I never really thought about. But for you, what are your last few words of encouragement or advice that you have for students and career fairs?
Yes, so I would say for students, don't dismiss, don't belittle their skills, their experience, even transferable. I know a lot of students and alumni, they're here learning new skills and they feel like they don't have anything that they can offer. But if they've worked before, they've gone to school before, they do have skills that are transferable. And I think a lot of them don't really recognize their worth. And also following up on that, recognizing their worth, realize that you are also shopping the employer. Right. It's a two-way street. I think that that's very empowering. It's not just what can you do for them, what can they do for you? And really the biggest thing is Wake Tech, we have so many resources here. I did mention careers.waketech.edu. The students... I was
actually going to tell you to please tell them where to find you. But
yes,
you're right
careers.waketech.edu. But any student or alumni has a small army of career specialists that will one-on-one help them with anything that they need. And if a student were to come back to the same person 10, 15, 20 times with questions, that's what we're here for. So I think it's wild. So every student here has really a career coach, essentially. They do. So use the resources. You don't have to go it alone, and it's there for you, and it's free. So get the backup. Get the coach in your corner to help champion you to where you want to be.
That was great. Well, there we have it. Another edition of Let's Talk Ed with Professor Chris. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Please do. This was, again, very good information about career fairs. And if you have any questions, again, get it to me or get it to Mr. N here. And it was a pleasure.
Great seeing you. Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you. This was
my
great.
pleasure. My pleasure.